Hey guys, this is Joseph and Kyle at Spotted Dog. We're coming today to talk about suppressors. We're just going to talk a little bit about what we know about suppressors and some of the most common questions that we get.
So we often get asked, are shooting suppressors like it is in the movies? Is it going to be just completely quiet? I'm going to be up here like James Bond or something like that. Unfortunately, guys, generally Hollywood exaggerates a lot of things. Most of what you're going to do shooting a suppressor is not going to be quite like the movies. You're not going to hear that same pew pew sound. You're going to be more in the range of safe to hear while you're shooting. And that's the big deal with the suppressor is it safe to use for your ears? Is it safe to use without hearing protection?
So overall, I would say it's never going to hurt you to protect your hearing more. So I'm not going to tell you don't wear hearing protection no matter what you're doing. You will be safer if you're wearing hearing protection whether you have a suppressor or not. But I will say this, I've shot a lot of suppressors and I've never felt the pain that you feel without one. Even shooting something big like a 35 Wheeling or something hot like a 6.5 Creedmoor or something like that, the suppressor takes a lot of sound out of it. About 10 decibels is a doubling of the power that a decibel rating has. And in general, one of these cans will take off somewhere between 20 and 40 decibels, so it's a lot of reduction.
One of my favorite setups with my suppressor is this, the CVA 35 Wheeling. Very popular in Louisiana. In fact, it is our #1 selling gun. And it's not something a lot of people would think, I need to stick a suppressor on that, but I did. Ours, the model that we sell the most, has the muzzle brake on it, and that makes the gun less recoil, but really loud. And we actually get a lot of complaints. The gun kicks too much, we'll get the one with the muzzle brake, then they get the muzzle brake and, wow, this thing's really too loud to shoot. Well, the suppressor is the marrying of all those good features because you get recoil reduction and you get quieter sound when you're shooting. So my 35 Wheeling is right here. I've got the Silencer Co Hybrid on there, and the Silencer Co Hybrid will fit just about any rifle.
Yeah, so the Silencer Co Hybrid is one of the cans that I recommend the most because if you're coming in for your first time to buy a suppressor, you're going to want one that fits a lot of things, and that hybrid fits the bill. And there's other brands as well. Dead Air has the Primal. Those are 46 caliber cans, which means you can shoot 35 Wheeling, you can shoot 45-70, you can shoot your 45 Auto, you can shoot a 300 Win Mag, a 300 Ultra Mag, or you can go down and you can put it on, I've put them on ARs before and shot 223, and even though there's a 46 caliber hole, you're still getting a lot of reduction because that hybrid has a lot of baffles. That's probably our most popular multi-fit suppressor in the past 5 years.
We have a lot of suppressors here at the Spotted Dog, and one of the ones that I think is very useful is a Rimfire Suppressor. You can take that and put it on a 22, you can put it on a 17, you can put it on, depending on the suppressor, you can put it all the way up to a 5.7 by 28. But the Rimfire suppressors differ from centerfire suppressors in that you can take them apart and clean them. And Rimfires tend to run pretty dirty, so that's a very good feature to have on your Rimfire suppressor. It really extends the life of it. So that's one of the things we get asked too is how do I clean my suppressor? The good answer is on a centerfire, you don't really have to do much cleaning at all. There is a process to clean them, but on the Rimfire suppressors, you really need to clean them in the hundreds of shots. So that's a good thing to know and a good thing to ask, and we're happy to help you here at the Spotted Dog.
So another specific suppressor type is the pistol suppressors. Pistol suppressors are unique because most of the time your barrel needs to be able to move for the action to work on your pistol. So a pistol suppressor will have what's called a booster assembly and a piston and a spring in it, and that just allows your barrel to float a little bit. So pistol suppressors are unique. You need to have specific parts for those, but they are some of the most fun to shoot. As a matter of fact, this is my personal gun, this Canic, with a Vortex optic and an AAC Illusion suppressor on top of it. This is my absolute favorite can to shoot. I love shooting pistol, and that guy is quiet and fun in a 9mm, which is not the most expensive of ammos to shoot either.
Yeah, you never go and shoot less than 50 rounds in a pistol, do you? So you really need some suppression to help you out there.
Sure.
Yeah, you generally don't shoot less than 50 rounds through a pistol when you go to the range, so you definitely need a suppressor for that. Yep. It helps, and you don't have to wear these bulky earmuffs all the time. We've also got a specific suppressor for AKs. It is called the Wolverine.
Cool can.
And it's left-handed threads on that thing, so it will fit your AK-47. That is very awesome, I think. Also, we've got suppressors that fit shotguns. How in the world does that work? We get asked a lot of times. Well, the shotgun suppressor actually adapts to a choke tube pattern, and so it's made to fit multiple shotguns, and it's designed in such a way that the shot has not spread out far enough to where it's going to hurt anything on the inside of the suppressor. So if you're ready to hunt with a shotgun, or if you want to go out to the range and shoot your AK or your AR, we have suppressors that will work for you.
So one of the things that separates suppressors from each other is the weight. And it also usually costs more for a lighter suppressor. So if you get a suppressor that's titanium, that's going to cost a little bit more than one that's stainless or Inconel or something. So we've got behind me here, I've got my personal Texas Silencer Company Outrider, and that's a 30 caliber suppressor, but it's titanium. And I think it's where the price starts on that one there. I think it's the cheapest one you can get, but it's really light. Even though it's a little bit longer, it's much lighter than even this hybrid is. You can get a Dead Air Nomad TI, which is a titanium Nomad. That is a very light suppressor, and it just doesn't add that weird balance to the front of your gun whenever you're shooting one of those. But usually if you get a more heavy suppressor, you're going to get a little bit longer life. You're going to get a little bit less price. They're usually not as costly for something that's not titanium. Just another option to throw in there is, do you want one that's lighter, or do you want one that's going to last a little bit longer? So one of the things we try to do is keep accessories for suppressors in stock. There's a lot of different muzzle brakes and end caps, direct threads, there's pistons, piston boosters, springs, barrel spacers, all kinds of different parts that you might need to use your can on different guns. And we are trying to keep those in stock all the time so that you don't have to spend a month waiting on something to ship to you, or especially if something's back ordered, taking 6 months. So we try to keep all that stuff in stock here at Spotted Dog. Especially we got a big selection of Silencer Co. and Dead Air accessories.
Another thing we get asked about in relation to suppressors is subsonic ammo. That's a very important question to ask, because sometimes you want to get the maximum quietness out of your weapon. And to do that, you'd have to shoot subsonic ammo. But the drawback to that is it's not generally very powerful. The exception being something like a 22, where you don't really have much more power than a subsonic round anyway. So that's why rimfire suppressors are very popular. That, and they're pretty cheap. But the subsonic ammo eliminates the sound that you get from a projectile traveling in a supersonic velocity. You get two main sources of sound whenever you shoot a weapon. One is going to be the muzzle blast, and the other is going to be your projectile traveling supersonic. And if you've ever listened to a bullet and you've heard the crack down range, you kind of know what I'm talking about, or like an air rifle that shoots really quick. But the suppressors will do a very good job in cutting down muzzle blasts, but they can't do anything about your bullet traveling supersonic, especially if you're shooting in a place that's not completely open, because those sound waves collide against barriers. So what you're looking at here is the sound that you're going to get from a suppressor. Like I said earlier, it's not like the movies. You're going to hear it, but you're going to hear the sound of the bullet shooting supersonic. But if you shoot subsonic ammo, then you can eliminate some of that noise.
So Kyle and I are what we would call nerds. So we could get into the technical details, all this stuff all day long, and it's fun to us. But here, I'll ask the question the way a lot of y'all are asking is, how loud is it? And I'll say this, if you're shooting supersonic ammo, so if you're not shooting supersonic ammo, your shot is going to be a little bit louder than your action would be on an automatic gun. So you don't hear the action on your gun when you're shooting without a suppressor generally. But when you shoot with a suppressor, you'll suddenly notice the sound of the action is actually pretty loud too. And you'll never get a gun quieter than the action is. The suppressor can't do that. That's part of the mechanism of the gun. If you're shooting subsonic ammo, especially shoot through a rimfire, something that's not a large projectile like that, something like a rimfire is going to be very quiet. If you shoot it through a bolt action, like a 22 rifle or something like that, it's very quiet. It's as quiet as an old Red Ryder pellet gun is, or BB gun is, or if not quieter in some cases. And something that's natively subsonic, so a round that doesn't shoot over subsonic speeds anyway, it's like a 45 ACP. Those are very good rounds to suppress. They make a lot of neat pistol suppressors for those, and they are very quiet. 300 Blackout was made to be shot subsonic. It does very well with like a 200 to 220 grain bullet, and those are very quiet. I'll say this, I've shot a 6.5 Creedmoor underneath a shed without hearing protection with one of these hybrids on it, and it really was not too loud to even have hearing protection on. Practically, it's going to be a lot quieter. You're still going to hear it. It's not like you're not going to hear it.
I know that my father has hunted with his suppressor before, and from sitting in a deer stand, when you hear a shot off in the distance, I think all of y'all know what that's like. I can hear it and I go, I wonder if that was my dad shooting, because it sounds so much different. It's kind of interesting, but it's not super loud like your regular gunshot would be. And definitely you don't get your ears ringing afterward, which is where that damage comes in, and you want to avoid that at all costs. Another thing that we get asked about the suppressors is how they fit. And we have direct thread suppressors. We have some that fit using like a muzzle brake, like an ASR device and things like that. So there's a lot of different fit options for your suppressor that can make it work for multiple guns, make it work for a single gun, or if it's something that you want to stick on one rifle and just use forever, that's fine. That's kind of what I've done with my Silencer Co hybrid here. Even though I could take that thing and stick it on just about any gun I own, I keep it on there all year. And I've got another one on order so that I can put it on another gun and do the same thing with for my regular hunting gun.
So let's back up into the nerddom just a little bit. Let's talk about how a suppressor works. If I had a balloon full of air and I pop it, that air escapes really fast and it creates a large pop. The same thing happens when you shoot a gun. You shoot that gun, that explosion and the pressure change over a short period of time is very loud. What a suppressor does, it has baffles, and all these baffles kind of work the same. They're all angled like this, and they catch sound here. Only a little bit of pressure can escape at a time. It just slows down that pressure release, and it makes it quieter. They're very intricate, and each different company has a different design on their baffles. Some of them are what they call spiral baffles. Silencer Co has a can they call the Velos, and it's a new can, and it is supposed to reduce the back pressure. So suppressors push back more pressure when you fire them. That one's supposed to reduce the back pressure on them. There's a lot of different designs, but they all have that same idea of slowing down the release of pressure over time to make it quieter.
Just like the muffler in a car. And that's some of the things that we get asked about too, is how dirty is this going to make your gun? It does actually put a little bit more crud in your gun whenever you're shooting with a suppressor, because you have something that's creating pressure in there, and that pressure is going to flow back some too. So you may want to consider that you're going to have to probably clean your gun just a little more often whenever you have a suppressor. But for most people shooting a hunting gun or something like that, that's not really an issue, because you clean your gun at the end of the year, not because you shot 400 times. I mean, you're only allowed 6 deer in this state anyway, so I mean, how many shots can you get off in a year? But it is something worth noting that you may have to look into your specific gun and how your suppressor fits, and then the different things that may make you have to do for your gun to make it work properly.
So a little bit more on that. That comes into play even more if you're shooting a pistol. So if you're shooting a centerfire pistol, you're going to have more blowback, which means, number one, put that eye protection on. Don't ever shoot without eye protection with a pistol suppressor on. But yeah, it's going to put more soot in your handgun. You're shooting a lot of rounds through a 9mm, you're going to have to clean it more often. Rimfire, same thing. You can put a lot of rounds downrange for not very expensive, and you can miss a lot of squirrels for pretty cheap with a 22. So you may have to clean that 22 rifle and 22 pistol more often. So I'll say this, people ask, how do I clean my can? And I would always say, refer to your owner's manual in your can. That's the safest route to go, and that makes sure that you're not voiding your warranty by doing something. I will say that most of the center fires have the same cleaning procedure. You're going to put some non-corrosive cleaning product in it, like a CLP or something. Let it sit, let it soak, and then you're going to wash it out and make sure it dries good. Rim fires, though, because they shoot so much dirtier, they waste so much powder and so much mess out the end of the barrel, you got to almost always get a brush after those baffles, which is why all these rimfire cans break down. A lot of them will have a stack of baffles in there, and you take each one apart, brush it down. Some solvent will help you get that off of there. If you have an ultrasonic cleaner, a lot of times you can do that. Some of them have what's called a monocore, and Texas Silencer Company has one. It's a very handy monocore. It's all one piece. The whole baffle set comes out, and you can brush it down real easy. simple stuff like that. Cleaning them is not hard, and it's not something you're going to have to do super often. On a center fire, you're talking about 10,000 rounds or something. On a rim fire, you probably need to do it every 100 or 200 rounds, something like that. So it's not incredibly arduous, but it's something you're going to have to do more often.
So a little bit more about the actual process. One of the things that we always get asked is, like, how hard is it? How hard is it to do this? And really, I mean, you can do the whole process from what you need to do on our side in about 30 minutes. We come in, we have the kiosk set up. You can come in and get your fingerprints done. You don't have to go to the sheriff's office anymore and get them done. I'm old enough to remember having to do that. And then you can set it up. And we have multiple ways that you can file. You can file as an individual or with a single shot trust, or you can get a paper trust drawn up somewhere else and get that done.
We'll go into that a little bit more in a minute.
We can go into that. But really, the process is very easy. All you have to do is get fingerprinted, take a picture, and do a short background check just like you would on a gun form. And whenever you're done doing that, the waiting game begins. You have to wait for the ATF to approve your form. It seems to make no sense. I don't think that they go in any kind of linear fashion at all. They dump the things out on a table and they start going through the forms, it seems like. So you may have to wait 6 months, you may have to wait 8 months, you may have to wait 10 months. It's very hard to predict that, and unfortunately there's no way for us to update you on that stuff because dealing with the federal government, as you know, is pretty interesting sometimes. But it is definitely better to get the process started now than it is later. A lot of people will put it off. Oh, I don't want to wait 8 months, so I'll wait until the time gets shorter. I don't think it's getting any shorter. So get it done now, and it'll be the best that you can get it as soon as you can get it.
So here at Spotted Dog, we've tried our best to make the process as simple as possible for you, the customer. And that starts from the moment you walk in the door. We're gonna help you pick out a suppressor. We'll help you decide which one's right for your gun and right for your situation, or if you're a trust and you're buying one for a lot of people, what's going to be the best all-around fit for you. Once you get that can picked out, like Kyle mentioned, Silencer Shop has a kiosk in our store where we can do fingerprints. All that doesn't take 15 to 30 minutes for the setup at the most. It's very simple to do. And we'll be with you each step of the way to walk you through it. We're not going to leave you out to dry. We're going to be there with you, helping you the whole time. We've got a folder to kind of, we give each customer one of these guys. It kind of gives you a place to keep your sensitive info and to keep up with all your stuff. And every time you walk in the door, you just bring this booger with you and you'll have everything that you need to set up your suppressor, to get certified, which is the last step. And usually the whole process from the time you walk in to pick out a suppressor until your paper is sitting on the ATF's desk is about a week usually. Silencer Shop has made that very simple. They've done a lot of the work on the back end so that we don't have to do a lot and you don't have to do a lot. They've made it very simple and easy. I promise you it's not as hard as your buddy said it was. You're not going to have to be in the store for hours to get this done. Although if you would like to be in here for hours, we're good with that too. But we got coffee. But it's a simple process now.
We have guns to look at.
We've got lots of guns to look at. So it's a lot easier than it ever has been. So let's talk a little bit about the filing process, and there's several different ways you can file. A suppressor belongs to an entity, and it's registered to that entity. Now that entity might be an individual, like Kyle may own his suppressor, it may belong to Kyle. That's filing as an individual. If he files as an individual, Kyle needs to be in possession of that suppressor. He doesn't need to give it to me to take to the deer stand with me. It needs to be with Kyle.
I have to be in the presence of the suppressor, whether someone else is using it or not, that's fine. And I have to have my paperwork with me to prove that I have that tax stamp for that suppressor. Right. And that's why my cell phone's a lifesaver, because I've got a picture of my tax stamp on my cell phone and I keep that with me at all times.
Yeah. So if you decide to file not as an individual, you can file as a trust. And if you file as a trust, the suppressor belongs to that trust. And anyone that's a responsible party on that trust, and that's a legal term, anyone that's a responsible party on that trust can be in possession of it. So if Kyle and I are on a trust together, I can let him take my can to the deer stand, and that's just fine because he is on the trust with me. Now there's two different types of trusts. So there's a paper trust. You can go and draw up a trust at a lawyer's office. You can put a lot of people on it. You can have 20 responsible parties, and you can have 50 suppressors on it. The only issue with that is each one of the times that you apply for a can, each person goes through the background check. Silencer Shop has created what they call a single shot trust, and that's a trust for one suppressor, and it has one person on it to start with. So when you send it in, it would say, hey, this is the hybrid trust. and Joseph is the responsible party. When you get it back, you can add people to that, and it's not something hard to do. You just sign some paperwork and get it notarized. So I could say, hey, Kyle, do you want to be a responsible party? Kyle says, yes, I want to be a responsible party. We get those two notarized, and then we could be in possession of it as long as we have that trust with us at all times. That's $25 for a lot of flexibility, and I think it's a good option. We usually suggest that people do the single shot trust because it does add some flexibility and allows you to a few more options with your suppressor.
Yeah, I can't think of a situation where you wouldn't go with the single shot trust from my perspective, but we can do it any way that you want to do it. But still, the same thing applies. You must carry the tax stamp or a copy of it with you at all times if you're going to be in possession of your suppressor. And that's something that's very easy to do. We give you multiple copies in your folder, and we make it very easy for you to take a picture of them, carry them on your phone too.
So guys, we're excited about suppressors. We love doing this, and the process is not difficult. It's not complicated. We just enjoy it, to be honest. And at Spotted Dog, one of the things we like to do is build relationships with customers. And this allows us just a little bit more face time with the customers. We get to interact a little bit more. We get to correspond through email and phone a little bit. So we enjoy the process of selling suppressors because we get to have customers build relationships with us. One of the things we pride ourselves on is doing a good job for you to make you want to come back. So that's part of our business model here, is to make the customers want to come back. And that's what we like to do with suppressors.
If you have any other questions or concerns, you can definitely contact us. You can give us a call, 318-649-7004. That's Spotted Dog Sporting Goods in Columbia, Louisiana. We have a website, spotteddogsportinggoods.com. You can send us an email. You can send us smoke signals. We don't care. Get it to us somehow, or come in the store and talk to us. We're happy to answer any questions and help you any way that we can. And we're happy to just talk to you about suppressors. You're not wasting our time coming in and asking us questions and wanting to know what's going on. It's a big purchase. It's a big process. We know that. We want to take the time and explain to you what you're going to get and how it's going to affect you. So come on down to the Spotted Dog, talk to me, talk to Joseph, and we've got Jacob working in the suppressors too. So come talk to any one of us and we'll help you out.